Alright folks, today we are diving deeper into the significance of Christmas for families. I want to look on the one hand at the history of the Christian tradition and on the other at the cultural context in which we live today. Now, for millions of people in the world, Christmas is the celebration of Christ. Many of those who build their rituals around the image of Christ are enamored by his appearance or the symbolic paternal role he plays for humanity and themselves. Rituals also play on our sense of belonging and knowing who is in and out of your tribe. And this also forms a large part of the appeal of religious beliefs. What I do want to point out, however, is that many individuals, religious or not, miss this basic fact about this time. Christ is and will probably always be an everlasting representation of new consciousness. When we look at the Christian religion from an historical point of view, Christianity seems to have inherited the pagan rituals of light that had been performed for many thousands of years before this historical figure called Christ emerged. The birth of Christ is made to coincide with the yearly light cycle, that moment when, in the northern hemisphere, the amount of light falling on our regions begins to grow again. It was a time of the year when a new something could be hoped for, a new crop, a new beginning, a new life of abundance, a new baby pig, a new chick, and so on. After all, in this time, crops had all died, leaves had fallen from the trees, rivers had shrunk to a trickle, and all chickens had stopped producing eggs. So humans could plant again now and hope for a new beginning. Nature and natural cycles was everything for our ancestors, and their relationship with nature was a lot more personal than it is for us now. This moment in time was therefore the perfect place to place the birth of a new consciousness. This time of the year has always been represented by the contrast between darkness and light, whether in the form of the sun illuminating the universe, a torch illuminating a cave, a candle illuminating a dark room, or even LED lights illuminating the dark streets of our... Well, okay, there are no more dark streets in our cities now, but you get the point. Once we understand the play of light and darkness, then we see how consciousness and ignorance are the psychological mirror of each other. This is the central metaphor we need to remember. Whatever the specific kind of ignorance you carry in yourself, embedded in that darkness is also the birthplace of your new consciousness. Does this make sense? Therefore, each one of us, simply by the organic nature that we are built with, is a candle of light, where we confront reality in those corners we most ignore and see as confusing. We bring clarity to the why and how of life. We enlighten ourselves. Like a candle in a deep cave, consciousness makes ignorance seem dimmer, well, at least as long as we stay close to the candle. So now, if we take this Christ consciousness, this opportunity for new consciousness and enlightenment to be the foundation of Christmas, you'd expect Christmas gatherings to be all about discussing what separates us, our different perspectives, all the different life experiences we had during the year, the opinions and ideas we formed that might be in contrast with others' ideas and opinions of other people, the conclusions and insights we reach, and how we might make sense of it all together. Christmas gatherings seen in this way would be a kind of a company startup brainstorming weekend. Alas, in my decades of travel all over the world, I've never seen this taking place. Christmas gatherings are not about Christmas-like work, I think. The difficult and focus-demanding work of making sense of our differences, of finding love for what is foreign, of seeking compassion by stepping into the shoes of our perceived enemies. Rather, it seems to me that very much to the contrary, Christmas gatherings seem to be about a sort of agreed collective neglect of differences in favor of a somewhat uncritical idea of sameness. Christmas gatherings, therefore, are not about honoring the work that Christ lived and died for by enacting his teachings of inclusion, of otherness, by reaffirming the light embedded in his decisions to be on the cross, but about celebrating our agreement that the work he had done was certainly valuable, but also just as certainly not for us. Now, I'm not here pointing to this gap between the real work of love, respect, and compassion and its celebration alone to somewhat belittle the celebratory aspect of Christmas. I understand that we humans often celebrate that which we cannot embody, actually. So my aim here is just for us to admit to ourselves that when we come together as different individuals to celebrate our similarities, more than acknowledge our differences, we inadvertently conspire to fake harmony, thus giving disharmony, our ignorance of each other, the unconscious upper hand. This takes me to the second part of this video, an idea we have about our family that clearly lives more in times past than our present conditions today. Today, there still seems to be among us a popular and clearly unrealistic idea that families are by nature a somewhat harmonious agglomeration of individuals, that nature in and of itself has conspired to breed similarities between family members, and that nature will coordinate our individual differences like a symphonic orchestra. But far from this, the truth of the matter is that nature doesn't give a damn about our needs for keeping things simple, and instead always has, continues, and always will continue to gift us with diversification. If the name Darwin says anything to you, then you know that by far and large, nature is oriented towards diversification, not conformity. Culture, on the other hand, for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years, has tried to contain this natural tendency of nature to diverge, whether in the form of tribal identification, common survival activities we need to attend to, such as building or repairing a roof, rituals and beliefs that limited the mobility and sexual expression of individuals. Culture has, for very good survival reasons, tried to keep natural diversification at bay, at least until recently. Today, many cultures have reversed this trend and drive and march along with hundreds of banners to not only celebrate, but also actively encourage differentiation. Children today are encouraged by their own parents to interact with an increasingly complex set of sources of knowledge and influence. Be them schools they are sent to from basically babyhood, different neighborhoods or towns they will move to and from during the course of their childhood, countries and cultures they will meet through travel or work, the hundreds of gadgets, toys, and activities they will be exposed to, and the thousands of auditory and visual images they will interact with on a daily basis. And actually, finally, but not least importantly, the increasing demands on their self-awareness, their will, their emotivity, their skills, all of which neoliberal industrial corporate cultures thrive on, because the more crannies of diversity we create in these cultures, the more products we need to fill those gaps with. And the more products, the higher the GDP. And the higher the GDP, the richer gets. Our times are not the times of our ancestors. It is therefore my humble opinion that the main reason why today, more than ever, families express tension between members when they are celebrating sameness is that they present with a kind of diversity that is utterly unusual in the evolutionary sense. Divergent values, expectations, philosophies, jobs, educations, desires, hopes, opinions, ambitions, skills, political interests, environmental awareness, needs, habits, identities, communities of reference, religious beliefs, and the list goes on and on and on. There is plenty of reasons for families today to be ripped apart by unspoken, non-understood, non-acknowledged differences that are wrapped in expectations of sameness when coming together at Christmas. And so we come back to the topic of light and darkness, consciousness and ignorance, and the particular significance that this time of the year has. The solution to a deepening sense of ignorance we have of each other is to bring the hidden into the light, to voice the unspoken assumptions we have created over the year, with humor, even play, but certainly with a positive intellectual and emotional curiosity. And the way to do so is completely up to your creative powers, but I'm going to suggest a few pathways here. So one way I would suggest exploring differences in your families is by wondering who is an extrovert and who is an introvert in your family, as these polar opposites can frequently annoy each other. Another polarizing continuum is generational identities. Try to seek out a better understanding of what baby boomers, Generation X, Y, Z, and now Alpha are, and how at odds some of their beliefs are. Try to understand these individual differences in terms of the environments each of your family members have been exposed to. both at their family level as well as the general cultural level. Finally, one recommended move here from me is to identify what I call close and open types. Close types are people who feel threatened by discussions focused on reassessment of their experiences, such as, how did you really feel about mom leaving you? Or what was really going on when we lost the house? Open types, on the other hand, suffer greatly in the absence of deeper and more holistic explanations of events. Open types love to revisit family stories of love, their grief and current preoccupations, and how that might fit in the group. This means that while some members of the family will close to a painful event, shut the event behind a psychic door, others will go full force into the why and how that could have come about. In and of themselves, these are essentially irreconcilable positions, as all members in the family are just trying to self-preserve. No one can be right or wrong here. If you're an open type member and you know you could get so much benefit out of information a closed type member holds, perhaps ask as kindly as you can to this member to join you in a professional therapy session for yourself, or simply accept that these diametrical reactions occur and are a natural aspect of human behavior. Okay, that's it for me, folks. I think you've been amazing following this far, so I wish you the best of the best that these times can offer to you now. Merry Christmas and look after your hearts.